Welcome to episode 19 of the Rebel Army podcast, the official podcast of the Cork City Football Club. And this week, we talk to our American star of the women's team. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm joined as always by Aaron. How are things?
Not too bad, Stephen. How are you?
Are you on holidays now this week or what?
There's no such thing as holidays. I, for some reason, take holidays when there's matches on, not when there's matches off. So, no, I'm here for the week.
I heard the lads are gone to sunnier climes, a lot of them.
They did, yeah. I'd say as soon as that full-time whistle went now, the lads were just thinking about those suitcases they've packed and ready, I'd say, and they're gone for the week. But look, they deserve it based on the year we've had so far. They deserve the break.
But listen, they deserve it after a great performance. And on Thursday night, it was potentially one of the best performances this season. It looks solid, I
think so, yeah. 4 goals. It's the first time we have 4 goals this year. No, we got Longford, 4 in Longford.
First at Turner's Cross, was it?
Yeah, 4-1. Brilliant performance. Brilliant goals again.
Brilliant goals, yeah. 11
points clear. What else can we say? Do you know what I mean? It's nearly the same every week. Even when it's not a great performance, we're winning.
And even little things like, Cian Murphy getting the goal at the end there, it was great
Brilliant
for him.
Man of the match performance.
In front of the shed as well, you know what I mean? And that celebration of the team in front of the shed.
It was brilliant.
It was a lovely way to kind of finish that halfway point of the season. Kind of the morale is up, the crowd were cheering on. You got some great pictures. I saw them up on social and all that.
It was class. Do you know what? It's, as you said, for Cian Murphy, brilliant for him. Danny Murphy was on commentary and actually gave Cian man of the match, which I think was, everyone in the ground will agree, it was deserved. Everything went through him. The goal was brilliant as well. He got really down low to get that header in.
Yeah.
Completely deserved it. And as you said there, the celebrations at the end were class. It almost felt like we just won the league or something. It was very kind of surreal in a way, the way everyone lined up, and Jack Doherty and Tim with the fist bumps to the shed. It was class. There was a real sense of togetherness there from everyone, and it was
that's what I got
a special one.
That's what I got from it, that it was a sense of togetherness,
Yeah, and we put a picture up over the weekend and videos and stuff of that, and we captioned it it's an exciting time to be part of the Rebel Army. It is. Everyone is rowing in behind each other. The atmosphere down that end of the ground on a Friday night is incredible, and hopefully it stays like that for the rest of the year, and we'll have some bigger celebrations as the year go on.
We had a superstar cameo appearance as well at the match on Thursday night.
We did. The cat. Do you know what? Right, that cat has been floating around Turner's Cross the last couple of months, and it's always before. It's probably in a house
around there somewhere.
Yeah. Do you know what? I have a theory. It's always before the game or whatever, and then it disappears. I reckon the owners take it in on a Friday night because they know there's a match on, and because it was Thursday, the cat was still out roaming around. And that's how it ended up. Because this has been, I said at the start of the season, I was like, how long now before that cat ends up on the pitch? But yeah, you'll often see him. We've got a couple of Snapchats and stuff of there's just a random cat jumping on chairs on a Friday afternoon. But
you wonder, does that cat often go into the ground during the week? And that's the territory of the cat. And then they realise, whoa, hold on a second, because it ran towards the shed.
This is my patch, who's here? Yeah.
It ran towards the shed, and the next thing it dived over to the Derrynad and up over the wall.
Up over the wall, yeah.
But it was the commentary.
I'll never live that down. My God, do you know what? Donald, one of our cameramen, had the headset on so he could hear the commentary. I couldn't hear the commentary. And so it happened. I clipped that 30 seconds of it and stuck it on Twitter. I was like, we get a few likes here now. And next thing I start getting texts from people, you owe Murph one after his line on commentary. And I was just like, so what did he say? I didn't get to listen to it till after the match had ended. Oh my God, that's Danny Murphy sacked from commentary duty now anyway.
Some of our past guests.
Oh God.
Between Danny Murphy and Rory. Well, Rory's was funny when he said, what a time to be alive or something. He
that was about brilliant, the cat. Yeah.
And then I see the League of Ireland had a heat map for the cat as well.
Class, yeah. The cat.
And the cat ended up with a Twitter account.
I saw that, giving me abuse. Yeah. 4 goals at home, 3 points, 11 points clear at the top of the table, and all anyone's talking about is the cat. Brilliant, isn't it?
You're in a great position when everyone's focusing on a cat, because it's just like, we're 4-1. Yeah, there's not much.
Even from our point of view, you can take the piss a bit on social media with it. Do you know what I mean? Like the cat I put up, the great performance, that kind of thing. It's funny.
Wasn't the only thing to make an appearance at Turner's Cross on Thursday night. There was a lot of former players and Irish internationals there as well. It was lovely to see
a few familiar faces,
straight back from Irish international duty. He was there. I was talking to him. He said it was a great experience.
Yeah, look at the brushing shoulders with the world's best. He's sharing I know he wasn't playing in the match, but the warm-ups, for example, then he was there.
He said it was a great experience.
Bruno Fernandes, Cristiano Ronaldo, all that sort of stuff. Conor Hourihane was there. I don't know if you saw him. A couple of people
And I think I saw Marco Manni there as well.
You did. Mark was there. Franco was there.
I didn't see Franco. No, yeah, was Franco there as well?
There was a lot of familiar faces there. Our friends from the Crown Centre were there as well.
That's
right. They
right.
were doing a collection.
Yeah.
Huge support for that as well. I saw people
hopefully
behind the shed and around the corner, and obviously the lads wore the Crown Centre t-shirts in the warm-up as well, which looked class. Unusual, you'd see bright orange on Cork City players, but it looked good.
They look very good, yeah. Yeah, no, it was fantastic. Do you know what? A great way to kind of finish that first half of the season.
Yeah.
They refresh and they come back next week with a home game next week actually as well.
Yeah,
so.
Back at the Cross again. The home games are still, even when there's a break, there's still home games to look forward to. Bray is up next, yeah.
And then on Friday it was the golf.
The foot golf day?
It's a foot golf, like not real golf, but yeah.
Yeah, you were there? I was there?
I was there, yeah. I tried my best, like that's all I can say.
I did as well. I didn't win, but I said to Anthony there should have been a recount because no, I definitely was never going to win that, but good crack.
It's very good, isn't it?
Great fun, yeah.
Avoided a few showers, no, alright, there was one heavy one. I think I was on hole 4 or something. We all ducked under a tree.
Yeah, we were the same. It was funny, like you'd be out there and the sun is beaming down on you, you're absolutely roasting, and then 5 minutes later I had to run in a bit like yourself under a tree into a bush to try and hide in the rain. But do you know what? It was good fun.
Yeah, and some unbelievable views from there.
Unreal, yeah. It was my first time down there. I'd heard a lot about it. But no, I really enjoyed it. It was brilliant.
No, it was great fun. Great to see so many people down there as well.
Yeah, and
lots
it's something
of families
new.
In particular, like, and it's something that families can do together, like, you know, have a crack, like, with the kids and adults having fun as well, like, you know.
Yeah, there was families, there was groups of kids, there was all mixed groups, really. It was brilliant. Like, it's something new for the club. We'd never done it before. I'd imagine we'll look at doing it again.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, no, it was brilliant, and maybe something new that we can add to the annual calendar.
Yeah. No, with the men off this week, we decided to focus on the women and get one of their top players in from this season, someone that surprised us all, I think.
Yeah, hit the ground running, really, hasn't she?
Yeah, she's
Player
really
of the month there last month. Couple of great goals. Couple of other chances that would have been great goals if they weren't saved. But yeah, Colleen Kennedy O'Connell, she's been a couple of Team of the Weeks as well, in the League Team of the Week. So yeah, she's been a name that everyone's been talking about in the women's side of things over the last couple of months. So yeah, we decided to get her in.
So I think we bring her in and find out how she ended up here.
Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast, Colleen.
Thank you.
So it's quite obvious to everyone listening that it's not a Cork accent that you have. So tell me, how does someone from Tennessee make their way to Cork?
So I, throughout the years, like I've had my time in and out of Nashville after, or actually during university. I decided to go out of state for university. I went back one summer to Nashville, ended up meeting a guy from Cork, thought about him for, 6-7 years. We ended up getting a coffee and the rest was history. So I ended up marrying him last December and we came back in January, actually just to visit with family. And, I was kind of trying to figure out my next move, waiting on contracts. And, Shane and I kind of joked and we were like, why don't you just like have a go, like just go look at Cork City. And I was like, well, we've talked about it, but are you sure? And he's like, yeah, like go for it. You definitely should. We're here. And I met the girls, I met Danny, and I went home and I told Shane, I was like, we actually can't leave. He's like, are you joking? And I was like, no, we're staying. Like, absolutely have to stay. So that's how I ended up here.
So that's how you ended up here. When did the whole football experience start for you? Like, were you playing since a kid, or like, when did you take it up as a teenager? Like, when did it all kick off?
So I actually picked up soccer when I was 10 or 11 years old. So I'd played softball, baseball, any other sport you could probably think of. I didn't have a training session one night. My mom was like, you want to go try soccer? And I was like, why not? Made the team because the coach was like, have you ever played? I was like, no. He's like, you're fast. We'll teach you everything. It's great. Okay. And so I had a coach that just was willing to catch me up with everything and loved it ever since. So never turned back.
And like, women's soccer in the US is massive. Like, on the back of the success of the teams over the years, it was actually more successful amongst women than I suppose than men in many ways, because they had led the way, didn't they, amongst women's sport over there?
Absolutely. I'd say like there was definitely a massive jump as I really was getting into the sport. And that's, I'd say, really about that time when the women's team really took off. Like you had your Mia Hamm and your Abby Wambach that you followed, but it was really just that national team. Like we didn't have the pro league in the States till I was a sophomore in high school. So 2012, I think it was.
Okay.
And so you really only had that national team to look to. And you had your MLS team, sure, but, as a girl, you want to have
You want to see someone that you can look up to and be like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, but after it took that jump, like the amount of soccer that there is now in the States is unreal. Like you had your few clubs here and there, but now like even my state, Tennessee, when I go back home, it's like there's 10 other clubs that have popped up in town, and it's like, how is this growing so fast? But honestly, the finances that go into the sports over in the States is unreal. Like for any sport, really. I mean, you can look at American football, baseball, and now there's just that real interest in soccer over the last, 15 years, and it's just exploded now.
But also, I suppose then there's probably huge investment in college for women's soccer in particular, and it's very competitive, I'd imagine now, is it?
Yes.
Compared to even before. They all want to be top of their state and national champions and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And where did you go?
So I actually went to an NAIA school called the University of Mobile. It was my dream to play NCAA, so Division I, these big schools that you normally do see in college. And, I went on to the University of Mobile campus, honestly, just more of like doing like, trying to get some brownie points with my ECNL coach, like the youth coach that I had at the time. It was his brother that was running it. And right as I drove onto campus, I was like, oh, this is where I'm having to go. I already know it, because I just had this feeling that's where I was supposed to be, even though that wasn't necessarily what my dream was. And thankfully I did stay there, because, the people that I met, the girls, my teammates and everything, that was if I'd gone to a big school, I would have never had that experience or some of those really pivotal moments in my career of growing, and there's still a lot of really good NAIA schools, because it's not as many rules as, NCAA. It might have changed now since I was there, but, my senior year, I'm 21, 22, and I was playing against a 30-year-old freshman who'd already played professional.
Whoa. How was that? How come they can play?
So it's a different set of like rules. So you have your NCAA, and they have Division 1, 2, and 3.
And they have to be a certain age, do they?
Mm-hmm. There's a certain age group, and then, can't be paid, beforehand, stuff like that. And then you have your NAIA, and technically you're not supposed to be paid, but I mean, you can just tear up those papers and no one would know, because it's not as popular as like NCAA. Like it's not as many protocols that you have to go through and stuff like that. So yeah, but NAIA is still very competitive. I would still say, NCAA Division I is the top, but there are still really good competitive schools in the other division. So like Bethany Balser, who plays for Seattle, I actually played against her in college. I think 3 of the 4 years, something like that. We might have all 4 years, we only met each other at nationals, but she's now excelling in the NWSL, and she came from there too. So,
I suppose a lot of the listeners will be used to watching American TV programs and college games and stuff like that, and there'd be big crowds or whatever. What were attendances like for your games? Like, were there
so definitely they weren't as big as like, your LSU or, some of these SEC schools. So that's Division I, NCAA. But, you had a lot of your hometown crowd there, people that you actually got to meet and know, and they've actually follow you throughout the,
bit
the
of
season.
a community around the team.
It reminds me a lot of here. Kind of like, every week we go, for our matches home, I still see some of the same kids every week, and I can recognize them, and we have that same chat. It was the same feeling at Mobile.
So what happens then when, so you're in college, you were obviously studying something else while you were there, were you?
Yes, I was studying. Sadly, I didn't really take too much interest till the end of college.
Football took over.
I was really football minded the entire time, but I actually double majored in marketing and management.
Okay. So how then you ended up in Europe? So you went to Sweden first, was it?
Yes.
How'd you go from being US college to Swedish team?
So when college ended, so the season's in the fall, and November came around. It might have actually been December. Nationals finishes up, and then normally, if you're not going to go play professional, that's it. You have your Sunday leagues, but you don't really have these other teams.
You're just kind of. Is there anywhere else for people to go after that in the US after college? Because if I look at most of them, they're very small leagues for all the professional sports. Actually, there seems to be way more college teams than there actually is professional teams.
Absolutely.
So you're just finished.
Yeah, I'd say a lot of my teammates. I think I have one teammate currently who's still playing. She's in Italy right now, but I think everybody else just once college is done, that's kind of it. And you go into your job and you can play your Sunday league. Yeah, it is. And, you know, they have like WPSL, which is your summer leagues. It's technically semi-pro, but it really only goes from maybe May through August, middle of August, and then all those kids go back to school. It's really just a league for these college kids to keep going, and then your occasional few that are in between that are still trying to go pro. So, you know, those teams are only together for 2.5, 3 months, and then they're off back to school, or they're back into normal routine of life with their job and then the Sunday league kind of thing. So, yeah, it kind of just breaks there. And kind of to go back to it, you know, when I was coming to the end of college, like I had this feeling I still wanted to play, but I was kind of unsure because I do feel like there's this like, I don't want to say like standard, but I guess like most people in the States, like they go to school, they meet their person, they get married, have kids, career, and that's it. Like that's just like the routine of life, you know? And I wasn't sure how I wanted to go about that yet. So I actually had a girl that I was competing against for 4 years, rival school. She was the defender. I was the winger. She contacted me on Instagram and she was like, I'm going to Houston for the Dash open trial if you want to go. And I was like, it'd be a fun weekend in Houston. So I went with her and I ended up making the team. And I was like, oh, gee, I wasn't expecting that. I was still in school. And that preseason was 4 weeks later. So it was short-lived. I was just there for the 1 week, but I learned so much in that amount of time. And they told me, go to Europe. They're like, go play.
So you got a taste of it then. Like that's kind of, they're a professional team, Houston Dash, aren't they? So you kind of said, I want to do more of this. I'm not just going to pack it in.
Right. Yeah. And when I was there, like, I'm not going to lie, I was overwhelmed. Like, because I went to a small school. Honestly, I didn't really have to think tactically too much in college. Like we had our formation, that's it, and you do it. Like we didn't really change in my 4 years. You played your 4-3-3, and our jobs as forwards were to cause chaos. And myself and the two that he had brought in, we loved chaos. So we just got to run and kind of play so free. And then when I went to Houston, it was, this is what we're doing, this is this. We had our meetings in the morning, our field session, our gym session. You had lunch, you're back on it, you know, and it was intimidating, but amazing all at the same time because you have these big names around you. But like I said, I learned so much in that week that it didn't like turn me off from wanting to play. It was just like, I'm not ready for this yet. I need to go do more and then come back to this. I didn't blow my chance. You know, it's kind of what I told myself. So I actually got called into Sweden from an agency. Like they wanted to sign me right after Houston. So he sent me to Sweden. I got a look at the club and I was like, no, this isn't it. So I came home, told myself I was going to quit for like that was it, you know, took a year off. And then I saw the girl I was competing with in Houston starting for the Spirit. And I was like, if she can do it, I can do it. Okay, that's it. So I went ahead, did training for, I think 3 or 4 months, went to all these trials in the States. You know, I had opportunities like with now Gotham. At the time, the coach had called me and she was like, hey, we think you're amazing, but we just signed Mal Pugh, now Mal Swanson. And I was like, yeah, you take Mal Pugh. You know, she's going to sell, she'll sell the jerseys, go for it.
Yeah.
And, but I was so confused because I felt like this is really what I was supposed to do. And then the team in Sweden texted me like, I think around like midnight or 1 a.m. that night where I was just like questioning, like, what am I supposed to do with my life? And they were like, we have a spot for you. We're in Elitatan. Come play for us. And I was like, well, if that's where I'm supposed to be, all right. So I went for it, and that's how I ended up back out in Sweden. It was the same club that I had actually turned away originally, but I think it was the idea of like how Houston was being this big, great club. They have everything done, and then going to a club in Sweden where it's like everything was more volunteer-based and very minimal, still amazing, but it wasn't anything compared to what Houston was, and it was like, this is a huge shock. I have no idea what I'm doing now. But going back, it was the best decision I'd made. It made me grow, learned so much more about myself individually because you had all day to wait around for training, but also all the girls spoke Swedish. Very few of them had English like ready to go because it was a very small town. And this was the first time I didn't just have like a group of friends to like run around with. So throughout the day, I'm waiting around. What do I do with myself? What do I actually want to do? And I had to ask myself, I was like, what do I actually like? And I was like, oh God, this is huge. Like, so in that 6 months, like I learned so much about who I am, like what I really want, where do I want to go? And that just really was the turning point really for me, is going back to that club, accepting it, and then going forward.
And was that a contract with the Swedish club, or kind of like a kind of a placement type of scheme whereby you're brought over as a university student, or like you paid, or is it like just expenses, or what way did it work?
It was a professional contract.
Yeah.
They were second league in Sweden, so they were allowed to do those. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not really sure how like legit it was, because I was like paid cash all the time.
Okay, we'll say they mightn't be listening. Eh?
Oh, it's okay, they're fine. They've already passed whatever that is, because I've gotten my letters. But you know, the way it was structured was very different, because also at the time it was my first contract. I was very naive to not only the standard, but like how the communication is supposed to work with the club. What the job of the agent really is. Am I being a burden, asking for what's promised, you know? And so by the end of that contract, maybe I wasn't making as much as I should have, you know, because I was naive. You know, they were just like, oh, we had to have money for Wi-Fi, or, oh, your apartment. I'm like, wasn't that like written in? Like, you know, and so, and that's not to bash the club, because they gave me the start to my career. Like, and they were great people. Made some great friends, and still, you know, now myself and Doro actually can chat about some of these girls, because she played with them for the last 2 or 3 years, you know, some of those old teammates of mine. But yeah, like that first season taught me so much about the industry on its own, like with smaller professional clubs, like how I need to handle like myself with the board, you know, or the, you know, director of the club, like kind of standing up for myself, because I've always been a people pleaser, and I didn't know what was right and wrong. You know, it was brand new to me. I had no idea. And also it was in Swedish, so I didn't have a clue. So
did you find the standards were different compared to university? Did it go up a level, or was it similar?
It was actually pretty similar.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie. That first year was very similar. It wasn't anything compared to, you know, Houston Dash by any means, but the university that I played for, to that second level in Elitettan was pretty similar. You had your 3 or 4 clubs in that league though that were very good, you know, and then that day you're leaving, you're like, wow, what just happened to us? Like, geez. And they just had a much better understanding, better communication, better chemistry. And then you had other clubs, you're like, how are you in the league? You know, like, how did you even make it this far? You know, my club being one of those, how did we make it this far? Because when I got there, we'd only it was the summer window, and we had like 4 points on the season. So, which I didn't know till I got there either. So,
and like attendance wise, there now small group again, or was it bigger attendance in Sweden?
I'd say for the most part, the attendance was bigger. Not necessarily for home games, like for us, just because we weren't doing well. But
some of the bigger clubs,
the other teams actually had a very good following. Like, not if I had never been in an environment where there was a load of people, that would have been very intimidating for some of these other clubs that they had there. They actually had a very decent following. And then you had your others that were like, if they're in the middle of nowhere, they had like 10 people, and you're like, I can do this today, you know. But you had your few that were like in Stockholm that were like, wow, like there is a decent amount of people that decided to come out today.
And you went from there then to Iceland, is it?
I did.
That's just like, that was going even smaller country again. Like, obviously a smaller league if it's going to Iceland, because there's not that many people live there.
Surprising enough, but I'm not going to lie, the top league in Iceland was better than Elitettan. It was very competitive. Yeah. And also, like, you'd be surprised with how small Iceland is, and only having, I imagine the number's gone up now, but like 400,000 people in the country, how athletic and good they are. Like, actually, like, just knowing the game, understanding it tactically. And it's not like, before I'd gotten there had been 1 or 2 teams that just run with the league. But by the time I left Iceland, it was very competitive. Like, they weren't just able to just run off in the first 4 games and be like, they've won it, you know. But like, it actually did come down to the last 2-3 games of the season, where everybody's, you know, itching and like waiting for the matches, and really kind of getting more people involved in wanting to watch the women's game. Like, I'd say when I first got there, probably not as many viewers besides those involved in the league. Yeah. But by the time I was leaving FHAL, I know we had heard from, you know, the higher ups of the club that they're actually hearing conversations that people wanted to watch us. Like, they preferred to click over to our match instead of the men's match, you know, because we were doing things that they weren't expecting. We just recently promoted, you know, yeah, we won the league the year before, but they weren't expecting that. And we able to start to turn heads to follow the women's game, which is great to be a part of too.
A lot of good investment into the game, I'd say, over there. So probably
Absolutely.
off the success of the men's national team, which had done well in some of the European fixtures and stuff and major championships and stuff like that, they probably invested in both sides of the game, I'd imagine, the Football Federation.
So the way that it's kind of set up is like, at least in Iceland, it's let's say Cork City had a team there, they didn't just have soccer. They also had handball and they had basketball and they had, so all these different sports were under
All
the
part.
same, yeah. And so like so the last club I played for, we had handball, we had track and field, soccer, obviously men's and women's. I'm pretty sure there was another sport there, but I probably didn't get out to watch it. But you know, they all fall under that same club, and the facilities are honestly ridiculous for how small it is, and the money that is put into it. You do kind of wonder, you're like, how is this possible? Like, because my club, we had a full indoor pitch, 2 small indoor pitches, a grass pitch, like the main field, and they were building another one then, plus having an indoor track on the inside, having a handball court on the inside, locker rooms throughout, you know. And it's just like, how is that even possible?
How is it sustainable? Like,
right.
Yeah, because obviously the attendance numbers physically, would it be big or small?
I would say that it was relatively big for the men's side. Women's, we were starting to get people in depending on the match as well. So if like, depending on, like, we had a cup match against a rival, you know, club, loads of people come to that match. And then you had your other odd games where it's like, oh, we're playing a top team, so we had a few more. Or if it was supposed to be a blowout of a game, you know, okay, we had like 15 people. So it's just, it really depended on how important the match was on attendance.
How did you adjust to the weather in both Sweden and Iceland? Because coming from Tennessee, it's quite hot down that direction.
Yes.
I'm sure it wasn't that hot up in Iceland and Sweden, like especially in the winter months.
Unfortunately, it was not. I was really hoping, like, Sweden was all right during the summer. Like, I still felt it was decent heat, but it wasn't terrible where most people were probably like about to pass out. Yeah. And then in Iceland, I think I've worn long sleeves every day that I was training there. The whole year. Like, only on the odd like match day would I go short sleeve. Like, even currently right now before training, I have a body warmer on for training today. So
yeah, like so that takes you. So how many years did you spend in Iceland?
I was there for 3 years.
3 years. And then, as you said at the start, you came here to Cork and kind of fell in love with the place. So in many ways, did you?
Absolutely.
What was it?
I think a big part of it is my husband and I haven't been around our own family for a long period of time, in at least 8 to 10 years.
And did he go to Sweden and Iceland as well, or did?
So he was actually in Nashville for school, and that's actually how we met. He was there. He decided to stay one summer when I was coaching, and we met at a soccer camp. So but so he was at Trevecca in Nashville. He did his undergrad and his master's there. He played for Trevecca, but yeah, no, like I came back here with him in January, and we haven't really had that time to spend that time with family. Like I was either here visiting for like a full month and then I have to go back, or he was away from his family and I was away from both, you know, family and him throughout that time. And when we had the opportunity here, I was like, it'd actually be kind of nice to be near family for the first time in like 10 years, besides just like at the holidays. Like I hadn't had that in a long time. I didn't really know I wanted it either till it was available. So, but that was a huge part of it. And like I said, like the girls, the coaching staff, like it made it such an easy decision. Like we had so many ideas, and not to lie, like we planned to go back to Iceland. Like deals were happening and contracts were being discussed. And then, like I said, the minute I met them, I had to stay. I haven't enjoyed soccer like this in a long time. And I feel like when you have that, you can't run from it either. Like just for like a status kind of thing either. Like I'm kind of past that, if that makes sense. Like, and not that that has anything to do with this. It's just, I prefer to enjoy the game than worry about, is this the best team in the league? Or is this, you know, are we in a different division of, I actually knew nothing of Cork City, like besides what it looked like, you know, because it's just what it is. Like I hadn't really followed the league or anything until we got here and the opportunity presented itself, and I was like, okay. So I showed up, and like, I think ignorance is bliss. Like, I didn't know anything of last season. I didn't know who had left, who had stayed, any of it. And when I got to the first session, I was like, we could win. Like, we can win matches here. Absolutely. And when I come to find out like what had happened last year, I was like, you're kidding. Like, I'm actually shocked with that, because I can only imagine the work that went into the entire off season before I got there. But like, the minute I stepped in, like, I'd say it was mid-February, early February, somewhere in there, I would have never imagined that was the same team as last year. And now seeing some of the video and stuff, it's not the same team, like, at all. And I fully believe, like, the girls that are here now, it's very special. Like, and I saw it from the first session. Like, I didn't want to play my cards too early with Danny, but like I said, when I got home, I was like, Shane, we're staying. Like, there's something incredible here that we can't leave.
What is it? Is it the talent? Is it the spirit of the team? Or what do you think is standing out to you in comparison to, say, in Iceland or Sweden or even back home?
Honestly, I don't want to say it's like just like one or two things. I think it has to be like kind of a perfect combination. Like, the girls are great. They all have really high expectations of themselves. There is a common goal of wanting, obviously the goal is to do better. We've done that, but there's still more, and you can kind of see that, like, from everybody. And the staff, I've never had a staff so honest, like, with me, like, or just genuine belief in me as a player, like, at least since college. Like, I don't have to question, like, one bit. If I had a coach that said something to me as like a correction where I'm worrying about, oh no, did I just like fail? Did I worry like too hard about this now, and where my head's gone for the rest of the game? Like, no part of me like has that with the staff. Like, if it's an instruction, I take it and I go. Like, and I think in my past contracts, I've been so worried about, am I pleasing everybody else besides me? Where this is the first year where it's just like, I'm actually enjoying it. I can joke with all the girls, like, where I'm not getting like only the high points, like, because in Iceland, I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting in like a video meeting or the locker room or whatever it is, and it's just a big bunch of Icelandic, and you're just kind of like nodding along until, you get that little bit of English and you're like, there it is. Okay, that was for us. And then you move on. Or like your video session, you're there for 30 minutes and then the coach comes to you and he gives you a 30-second brief and you're like, that's all we needed from this? Why wasn't our meeting why was the whole meeting that fast then? So I think being able to be involved with everything has made that a huge part of why I'm enjoying it as well. Like,
what's it like to be around there's a lot of young players on the team, which is that new for you? Like, or is it kind of relative to what you experienced in the other two European countries?
I'd say it's pretty normal. Like, I've had throughout my 4 or 5 teams now, I'd say having a younger group and an older group is very common. I'd say this is the first time I've had more than like 1 or 2 people my age, which is great. Like, but this is also the first time I've had so many younger players that are actually playing pivotal minutes. Like, we've had a lot of young players that are in, the trainings and stuff like that, and they're there and you have conversation, you can chat and you move. But this is the first time I've had a number of players that are 20, 21 and under, like, throughout the field, and you're like, oh my gosh, wait, yeah, I forget you're 17 sometimes, like, because of how well they're doing, and it's incredible to see that. And I'm only excited to see like where they're going to be in, 2-3 years, when they're touching 20, some of these younger players, because if they're already doing this at 16, 17 years old, you're like, what kind of player are you going to be in 3 years, So it's been great. And like, yes, it is common to have some of these younger players, but not as pivotal as the ones that I've been with.
What was it like coming out and Turner's Cross for the first time at the start of the season?
It was actually great.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Like, again, not knowing as much about the club, like, I was like, okay, we have a home match. And then like my husband had to tell me like how big of a deal it was to be in Turner's Cross. I was like, oh, okay, this is like huge. Like, I had no idea. I just thought this was like another Saturday. You go to your match and then you go home and you did it. It's a great day. But, having the environment there was great. Like, that many people. I'd say that was probably one of the bigger groups that I've played in front of in a long time. Like, we had a good, showing last year with my team, but it wasn't the same. Like the ones that I felt like came last year were there because, you know, the club was like, come to the game, please. But it felt like the crowd that we had at our first match here wanted to be there.
Yeah.
Like actually wanted to see us succeed, not just, you know, we're here. We had nothing else to do. So, you know, but like they actually wanted to be there.
They were excited about the season ahead, looking forward to seeing the new players, that kind of thing as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it just felt personal. You know, like it felt like whenever we were going around to people, you know, after the match, like they actually wanted to chat with us and know us. And, you know, same for me, like anybody who comes to our match, like I would love to be able to chat with every single person and just thank them for coming, because they didn't have to choose to do that on their Saturday, but they wanted to be there to support us. Like, I think that's a huge thing, to have a community like that that's so tight that they want to actually be there, not just because there wasn't anything else going on.
How have you found, like, a lot of the young girls that come up to you? I know Ciara was talking a couple of weeks ago where they're looking for stuff from me, they're looking for autographs. Like, is that kind of fun, or?
It is at times, yeah. I mean, like, being able to go around and, like, chat with some of these younger girls, and now they have somebody to look up to and stuff. I think it's incredible. Like, I can't tell you, I was probably 16 the first time I got to see my first, like, women's professional game, you know, and because with it just being the national team, you had to kind of follow them around. Where are they going to stop? Hopefully they come by your city and then you can go to that match. Or, you know, when the NWSL started, I had to go all the way to Seattle to see my first NWSL game, you know, and
which is not far, which is a good distance from where you are.
Completely the other side of the country. But, you know, for them to be able to come out and then just having, even if it's 30 seconds with that kid to, they want you to sign a little picture or something, but you get to have a moment to chat with them. And that's something that they're going to remember to want to come back the next week, or maybe for them to do more. They saw, you know, somebody do something awesome or super cool. Let's say it's, you know, Senna decides to meg somebody and they're like, oh, now I need to try that. It's sparking creativity in the next, you know, group of girls that wants to play. And, but if, you know, just giving that 30 seconds just to chat with them, and they think they're the biggest thing in the world then at that point, and so cool that they got to talk to us for a minute. So I enjoy it. I'm probably one of the last ones always to leave, actually, because I try to at least chat with everybody who's come around and give them more than just a signature and run, but chat with them for a minute. Because I had a national player do that for me in Nashville. I think I was 16 or 17. She was just about to hit retirement, but she made it a point to sit there and chat with people for, it wasn't long, but just 30 seconds. And that 30 seconds changed how I wanted to be viewed as well, like moving forward. Like,
who was that?
Christy Rampone.
Okay.
You know, she really took the time to get to know the fans, and she didn't skip a person. She was intentional with what she's talking about. She wasn't just, thanks for coming and move on, but who do you play for? Like, what position? You know, it was that kind of stuff. And I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. She wanted to know about me and what I do, you know. I'm so cool. Like, I want to know what she's doing, you know, but she's more concerned about what am I doing now. And I thought that was incredible. So
that's lovely, like, to inspire the next generation, no matter what you're in. You know, it's such a big thing, because for that kid, it could be, as you said, life-changing. No, they might go and train harder the following week, and next thing they could be playing with you for all you know.
They could be outrunning me, you know, you never know. And that's the, like, any of the coaching I've done as well, like in the States, like I haven't needed to coach, you know, but I've wanted to. Like I do actually have a passion for giving back to the game, because the game has given me everything. You know, I've been able to travel. I got my degrees. I met my husband over it. Like, and now if I can inspire a few more, you know, to maybe do more in training before I start my coaching career, that, like, it's just icing on the cake, you know. Like I want to be able to help as many people, or inspire like a few kids to maybe try something different, or, you know, oh, that was so cool, how'd you do it, you know, ask those questions. And, you know, we've gone to a few clubs now, and, you know, we've always said, like, hey, ask us whatever you want to, as we're going around to these youth clubs. And I had a couple kids, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, they actually asked really intentional questions about their positions, and I was like, this is what I'm here for. Like, loved it. Not just like, can you sign this, and they run off, but they actually wanted some guidance in the game. And I thought that was, you know, really mature of them as well, because I think they're 12 or 13 years old. You know, a lot of times at that age, like when I was 12 or 13, I'm like, we did it, you know, and you run off the field and you won a game maybe, and then you run home, you know, like whatever. But I thought it was really interesting that there's so much more thought as well. You can see it happening inside some of these younger players.
probably coming here at a good time in terms of the game is growing rapidly on the back of the success of the national team. In many ways, it's mirroring what happened in the US probably 10 years ago, if not more. You know, it's kind of similar thing. We get to a World Cup and that all of a sudden more people take up the game and there's more interest. So that means it's going to have a knock-on impact. More people attend your games, more people want to ask you questions and stuff like that as well.
Absolutely. No, and that's like, again, I hadn't really ever followed the league. So like this year's the first year. I mean, honestly, you could ask so many of the people. Like, I barely know who we're playing the day of the match. Like, I'm still trying to keep up with what's happening. But it really is growing. Like I saw, is there not like a team that's joining in, is it 2025?
Yeah, Waterford, I think, yeah.
Like having another team in the mix, that's 2 more games a season now right there, you know, and it can continue to grow. And, you know, just with, you know, Ireland making that last World Cup, like you have to think how many kids now join soccer over that. Danny was telling me like how many kids have now joined in, and then now the pool is bigger to pick from, you know, and how much more talent there's going to be because they're starting so young instead of a couple of friends are doing it and then they've maybe fallen out of it for a few years and then get back into it. But I can only imagine what that's going to look like in, you know, 5-10 years time, like the talent that's going to come out of here.
So what's been the highlights for your first season with the club so far? I know we're only halfway through, but, you know, not even halfway. But, like, what have been the highlights for you?
Honestly, like, it's going to sound, like, really, like, cliche, but, like, the people. Honestly. Like, the staff, the girls, they have been so much more than they could probably actually imagine for me. Because, in all honesty, like, after last season, I'd considered, like, how many more seasons am I going to play? Like, you know, this is a job. I do the job. I go home. Like last year was really the first time I felt like from start to finish in a season, I would show up, go to work per se, which is the training session, and then go home. And I was like, this is not enjoyable. Like the only part of last season that I really felt was enjoyable was I was learning a new position. Because when, you know, you've been a winger for 15 years, like when it comes to tactics and things, like, you know it, you know what I mean? Like the only real challenge that week is who am I up against this week? How can I beat her? You know, not necessarily am I having to learn about a few more other things, like other tips and tricks, but it's really just, I need to beat her today. Whereas last year I got to be a fullback. And so that I had to completely flip my mind from an attacking player to more of a defensive player. And I've actually joked with Alex now a few times about that, like how many thoughts I had first half of the season where it's like that was such like a winger thing to do, not a fullback thing to do. But so that was really the only enjoyment I had last year, where this year I'm enjoying all of it. You know, I don't know a ton, like even about like certain teams that we're playing, like that. That's not to say like our staff isn't doing a great job. They actually do an amazing job of preparing us. But like, I think not really knowing as much about who we're playing against or what their reputation has been so much better for me.
Sounds like you're enjoying the football.
Yeah, absolutely.
The love is back, kind of. Not that it went away completely, but you know that by the sounds of it was kind of fading a bit.
Yeah,
I know it's kind of completely.
And it's, you know, it's not even that it's like completely different sessions or it's a different challenge. I think it's just the people and the environment that I'm in. Like I feel like I have real trust from the staff that they believe that I can do the job. But also the girls that I'm playing with and around, like I can completely trust that they're going to do their job now, you know, like, and I just enjoy being around them. There's always a good laugh. Even if I'm not in the joke, I can have a laugh about what is happening over there, you know, or, you know, the staff is able to have a laugh mid-session, then we're back into being serious. Like, I do enjoy that. Or, you know, I can say, hey, I want to do this. I want to get better at this. Because I have never actually trained to be a 9 before till this season. And not a problem. You know, Joe's out there with me for the next 2-3 weeks before session, working on a few movements or how do I want this ball played? Where do I think I'm going to be my best at, you know, for this situation? And just being able to have that creative side of it again as well is just, it makes it even better. Because I feel like if you're just very robotic in the game, you're like, okay, I'm kind of tired of this too. But it's really just the environment and the people that have made the game as enjoyable as it's been.
Are you feeling pressure to get goals, being the staff from overseas coming in?
Honestly, no.
No?
I think this is the first year, respectfully, I have not felt that kind of pressure. I think in past seasons, you've come in on a contract. They, even in Sweden that first year, I was the only foreigner brought in. And they basically were like, thank you for coming. Save the club. I'm like, what? Like, you only brought me in. Like, are you kidding? Like,
Yeah.
how can one individual do it? There's like 11 of us out here. Like, it can't just be me. So, and in Iceland, like the teams were good and it challenged me in different ways, but I did feel pressure in those moments because these clubs are spending tons of money on visas and everything to get us there. And then not as much information behind the goal at hand for you specifically. They're just like, go do it. And then you play like, 10 games and they're like, they'll say good, yes, great throughout the whole thing. And then like you get to the window and they're like, And you're like, wait, you said I've been good and great the whole time. Like, and then there's that added pressure again, whereas here I've just been able to enjoy it. Like there's been also no fear that I was going to fail or I was going to let somebody down in any way. Like, which it's not like I shouldn't have that pressure, like I know that coming in, I have to do the job. I need to score goals. If I'm going to be a 9, I have to, or the team does not win. We'll win games. I know that, but I don't have this added pressure from myself to do it, which I think is why I've been able to do anything that I've been doing this season so far. Like, truly, I don't feel any kind of extra added weight, which is, I think, also, relieving in a sense, like, and why I can play as I am right now, a little bit more free.
What's it like to be around so many kind of young international players as well? Because a lot of them have been called up to their, even with the senior team, and then you have some of the others like Claude and stuff like that, all with the youth teams as well. That must be exciting as well, is it? To say that you have the future talent of the country playing with you.
Yeah, no, honestly, like I'm thrilled for them. Like anytime I've seen that one of our girls has gotten called up, like I think I'm ecstatic for them, because as much as like I'm happy for success with the team and stuff, I'm so happy for individual success. I think that, yes, in a team you can be like competitive and it can be healthy competition. Like I could say confidently, like myself and, Robbo, we're both 9s, but I actually probably have some of the best jokes with her in training. Like we can actually get along even though we're competing for the same spot. Yeah. Where any of our girls, if they have some of that success, like we need to celebrate that, encourage, like that is an amazing thing. Not there. I don't think that we should have anybody being like, oh, that should have been me, but no, celebrate that. That's amazing. Like that, it's for that kind of accomplishment. And also that could maybe kickstart them into trying to do more, and to push themselves to be better, to have some kind of recognition like that. And no, it is amazing though to get to be around in some of the young stages of some of their careers, because like I was saying, like some of our girls 16, 17, 18 years old, who
knows what the future will be like. Yeah,
in 3 or 4 years, I'm so excited to see how well they're doing and where they're at, or like career wise, like how dominant they can be, because they're competing against women in this league. Like our girls are younger, but they're competing against some women in this league. So to
women
see
in
them,
their 30s and stuff as well, like who have been playing at international level before, and some still are. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So I can only imagine what's going to happen when some of these other clubs bring in their younger girls that maybe haven't gotten as many minutes, and then to see, City's younger players now hitting that 20-year-old range, and they are flying it. Like the confidence that they'll have, and not that they're not confident now, but just it's going to be a different level when you hit, like looking back to myself 17 to 18 years old, then going into like 2021, I grew so much in that 3 years. I can only imagine how well they're going to be in, 3 years.
Do you find yourself as a mentor at times to some of the younger? Do they come and ask you questions about your time playing in Europe and stuff like that?
There's been a few of them. There's been a few questions about it, and I answer it honestly and openly. It's not like we chat about it like every day, but if somebody asks me a question, I'm never hesitant on it. I think I'm just so thrilled about what's happening now that I haven't really been looking back at all. But yeah, I don't mind, if any of the girls ever ask. I've had a few, but it's been very short, kind of conversations. And then we're back into what are we doing this week? What's happening this Saturday. So
how do you feel about the rest of the season? Like, where do you think, where do you think the team is heading? Or, what kind of vibe are you getting from the early kind of stages of your career with the club?
I think, like I said, like I didn't really know too much from last year. So when I stepped in on the first day, I was like, we can win. And I still believe it. Like, I think, you know, once we can find our groove, you know, of like that consistent, which I don't think anybody's going to be mad that I've said consistency, like, because we all have talked about it.
Danny has mentioned it himself. Like,
you know, we need some consistency. And, you know, if we can find that stride, like in the second half of the season, taking that into next year is going to be amazing. If we can create that standard of and what that consistency needs to look like for every match day. Because you've seen it like this season where there's games that we maybe shouldn't have been, you know, contenders in, and we are. You know, it's only like a 1 goal, you know, difference kind of game. And then people are like, how did that happen? It's like, oh, no, we're actually pretty good. Like, you know, we can compete. It's just now, can we find that every week? And that would be the big game changer if we can find that.
No, we usually finish up the podcast with a couple of questions.
Oh my!
And we put it out on our Instagram. So we have a few for you. So the first thing is, I think this is a funny one. Did you find it hard to get used to the Cork accent?
Honestly, my first trip over here, yes, but it was my mother-in-law that really made me question, could I do this? Because she was just talking to me so fast. But I think I had good like.
Are they
prep.
from the city?
Yes, they are. Yeah, and so like when they were chatting, I know for the first 48 hours, I actually had to tell my husband, I was like, I need time to process what just happened to me, because I don't know what we've talked about today. I just nodded a lot. I still have moments, like if somebody's like, if it's a little bit lower tone, maybe I'll miss what was being said. But for the most part, I think I've gotten to be a lot better with it. So. And
who's the hardest in the team that you actually find to understand? Is that, or maybe if there's two talking together, do you struggle in that regard?
Oh, if there's a crowd talking, I can never catch what's happening. I just normally step back, let that play out, and then they'll come back to me if it's something important. But no, I'd say honestly, probably Robbo, but she's from Dublin, so so Robbo.
We find that difficult to understand at times.
No, but I mean, everybody has a decent laugh with her about what she's saying, and then, you know, what did you really mean to say, you know?
Yeah.
But no, I'd say maybe her, but we hang out nearly 2 or 3 times a week now, so I've kind of gotten used to her as well. So I'd say only on the off times of when someone's talking a bit in a lower tone, then I'm like, I have no idea what's being said. So.
Philly wants to know what's the biggest difference between League of Ireland, Sweden, Iceland, and US football.
Oh my!
Kind of answered a bit of it already, I think.
Yeah,
but
I'd say like if I'm thinking just strictly off the game itself, I'd say the first 2 or 3 matches here, I was actually confused with why the ball was being played long so many times.
Okay.
Like, it's settled a lot now since the season's been going on, but I do remember the first game or two where I was like, what is happening? Like, just watching the ball like kind of ping all over the place till it was settled, where I'd say a lot of times that ball gets played in, somebody settles it straight away. And then you have your physical play a little bit, but it wasn't like long ball, like 4 or 5, and then it's down and goes. And I was like, what did I just sign up for? Like, I was not ready for it, but it's settled a lot more. I'd say throughout the league, I haven't seen it as much. Like, people are actually playing it now, not just, let's see what happens, you know? You
were thinking you were in a different ball game, I'd say, at the start of the season. So.
Yeah, I was thinking I was too short for this league because I was never going to win a header, so.
Aoife wants to know, favourite thing about being best friends with a dub? Oh, so that's Rob, yeah.
Bravo. Yeah, God love her. Honestly, like, I think just
not understanding what she's saying, maybe. Could be one of them.
Definitely. No, I'd say honestly, just the fact that we can have a laugh about, you know, the States. Like, she's had a few trips over there now, just like visiting and stuff. So she has a pretty good understanding of like where I'm from and, you know, a lot of places in and around where I've been. And so we can have a decent laugh about the States. I know it's probably not typical of an American to do, but I like to have a laugh about where I've been and where I'm from. Yeah. So I'd say that's probably the best part of being buds with Robbo, is the fact that we can joke about my country.
Speaking of your country, Nicholas wants to know, would you rather win a trophy in America or win the Women's FAI Cup?
Cup.
Yeah, you'd love to win here?
Yeah, because honestly, after I left the States and went to Sweden, I actually had told my parents, like, I don't think I'm ever going to come back and play in the NWSL. Like, and that's not to say, not to challenge myself and that I couldn't do it, but I prefer it. like away. Like I not to not appreciate where I've come from, but I like the challenge out here more than the States. I feel like when I was growing up, it was very just athletic, be fast, and it wasn't as tactical. It is becoming now. Like if you see some of the games, in ECNL and stuff, you're like, they're 14. What? Like, this was not what was happening when I was 14 over there. But when I grew up playing, it was very just athletic. Where, now it's the challenge over here. I'd say is a bit more physical and actually controlling what's happening on the field and the ball, and it's not as just like based on luck, I guess. Like I feel like there was a lot of times, if I think back to my career in the States, like a lot of that could have been just like a lucky, like, oh, it barely touched off her head, so I was able to get on the ball because she misjudged it. Whereas like here, if I'm going to check in for a ball, I have to be able to hold my own, or I'm gone. Like she's just going to toss me. So I like that part of it as well. And also like I think I'm settled here. Like I prefer to be here. So, I would rather win the cup than to go back. So
I'm guessing you probably want to stay here for a few seasons at least.
Yeah, honestly, like if I could finish playing here, I'd be delighted with it. Like I said, I haven't been this happy in a long time, and I think I've learned throughout my years now, it's not just about, for me individually at least, it's not just about how far I can push, with my career, but like necessarily trading that for happiness. Like I fully believe that City can win here, like in this league. I believe it. If it maybe not be tomorrow, but it is possible to do, and I'd much rather do that here and be happy while doing it than to be with a team that I'm going to work for and we win a trophy and it's like, we did it, hey. But I want to actually enjoy that when we win it.
Well, I think that's a great way to finish the podcast. Hopefully it won't be too long before you win a trophy, and who knows, maybe win a league in the next couple of years. Colleen, it was great that you shared your story on the podcast, and best of luck with the rest of the season.
Thank you, and thank you for having me, seriously.
Great interview.
Yeah, she's brilliant. Like you can see she's talking there about she came in and just fell in love with the place immediately, but you can see the girls really took to her as well, like the rest of the squad, Danny and all the staff. Everyone gets on with her, everyone likes her. Her
enthusiasm for the game, I think. But I think her enthusiasm is coming from, I think the club has reignited her passion for it as well. I think it was fading a bit just by the sounds of it. Yeah. I think she was getting a small bit fed up of it and wondering what was happening next with her career.
Yeah, now here she is again in a new country, new city, new people, and she's loving it. And you can see on the pitch, she's expressing herself as well. She's scoring goals. She's doing well.
And in a new position as well. Like she said, she always played in the wing, and she's kind of trying to play a number 9 a bit now as well.
Yeah,
so,
she's kind of learning on the go, and she's still doing a great job. So that's brilliant.
It's fantastic, and it's great. And it's great to hear that she's loving, all the interaction with the young girls, going around to the schools, the clubs, that kind of stuff as well. That's brilliant, because that's what the club is about as well. Yeah,
it's brilliant. And she said there that she's often one of the last players in after a game when she's out with fans. That's true. I see her all the time when the lads, like there's girls have had showers, have got dressed and they're leaving, and she's still out on the pitch taking pictures and signing autographs, which is brilliant. But yeah, she's all the players Danny's brought in and the players he has currently, they're all brilliant with supporters. They've always been, they're great to do stuff like the podcast or whatever we want them to do. They're all about growing the women's game, which we're doing and they're doing. And as Colleen said, she reckons this team can win trophies over the next couple of years. I think we all do.
Yeah, I think so.
Hopefully,
the only way is up. Like, without a doubt, I think there's a lot of positivity there, and I think Danny's optimism on the podcast last week as well. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that's a lot of that, the positivity, the belief that you can do it. That's worth a lot. Like that helps, and it seems to be working this year based on last year. Like Colleen was saying there, she didn't know how last year went or how last year ended, and now that she's seen the players she's with and the squad, hearing about last year, she can't believe it. And I think we were all in the same boat. Like, they're really good players. We know what they're capable of, and they're starting to believe now themselves what they're capable of, and it's showing this year. It's been a great season so far, and long may that continue.
They have no fixture this week, even though the Women's League is on. But
it's actually, do you know what? I had a look at it there. I was a bit confused myself. I actually thought we did have a game this weekend, but the All Ireland Cup is back. That's what's on this weekend.
Yeah.
And we went out at the group stage of that. So we were the Idle team last week in the league. So I had it in my head. I had it in my head that we had a game this weekend.
They had their mid-season break early, was it?
No, it was the international break. It's very confusing. There's so many breaks. There was the international break.
Yeah.
Then we were idle.
Yeah.
So it was 2 weeks. So sorry, there was the international break. Then we were back. Then we were idle. Now it's the cup. And then we're back to the week. Very confusing.
I think Danny was kind of saying that last week too.
Yeah, he said it.
Stop starting.
It's very, very stop start, and it's hard to get a bit of consistency going. It is very confusing, even for I'm around it 7 days a week, and I was certain we had a game this weekend against Wexford. I was preparing for a trip to Wexford at the weekend.
Yeah, so it's all over the place at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, but sure, look, there's no fixtures for the men's team either this weekend. So
yeah, we'll have a quieter weekend than anticipated, but
our thoughts to all the fans who are kind of pining at the moment.
Yeah.
At least they have European football.
I was
going to
say, what do we do on a Friday night? But at least we've got the Euros to watch. Yeah.
There's
the game there now in a minute. I just kicked off, actually.
3 matches every day.
It's great. What a time to be alive. As Rory O'Hagan said on commentary.
I'm sure there's fellas at work and people at work at the moment, and they're like, oh yeah, I'll just do that now. And RT players
extended lunch breaks as well.
Yeah, RT players open, and they say are working from home now because this is one of the first tournaments now.
Oh, true, actually, yeah.
I know the last World Cup would have probably been the first one of them, but it's crazy. Is the underage teams back this week?
They're back at the weekend.
Because the exams are over now, and
we'll at least have them to talk about next week as well.
Very good. Yes, we'll have something to talk about. And I think we have 1 or 2 guests lined up as well.
We do, a few interesting ones. A few left field ones and a few big names as well.
Yeah.
So with the next couple of weeks, they're shaping up
nicely.
nicely.
Plenty to look forward to. But thanks again for listening, guys, and make sure to subscribe to the podcast.
Exactly, and enjoy the break. Yeah, enjoy the weekend off, and we'll see you back at Turner's Cross on Friday week.
Yeah, enjoy the longest day of the year. It would have been the longest day of the year. It was Friday if we were playing a match, but enjoy those stretches, go for a walk or something after the Euros.
Don't spend too long watching every single game like we're going to do.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week.